Okay. This one is a special video. Hi, how's the sound? All right, we're good. This came on my Twitter feed this morning. And because I'm trying to get used to doing the videos, I thought, fuck it, let's just stream this thing and go through it in real time. A lot of what I'm trying to... the world's a silly place. This came through on my Twitter feed from Anime Marcus, who is a parody account, and it's not parody, so it's quite funny. Anyway, so I'm just going to dive in. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not opposed to inclusive language. I'm not opposed to the intent behind this, right? But fucking hell, what is wrong with people? So this document, it was shared on Twitter this morning, and it's really telling what a large portion of the left are trying to do, which is sanitize language, but also police the language of everybody else. And this is, you may have heard the word problematic before. And it's become a bit of a meme, and it's become one of those things where everything is fucking problematic. I'm problematic. Now, there's a range here, which is you go from sort of problematic right up to bigot, right up to Nazi, and it can escalate within minutes from that. And that's where things become a bit crazy. So the reason that I'm interested in this document in particular, just because it's quite telling, it's about the mindset that drives a lot of this stuff, which is this idea that, first of all, language is violence. Now that comes from a place of systemic violence, which is based very much around. It's a legitimate theory and a legitimate framework, but there are other frameworks that are more linked to the real world. It's good to look at the ideas of like how systems oppress and how, but it's not how the world runs. So I'm not invalidating this psychology of systemic violence, or that language can be violent necessarily. Now, the problem is, again, it is this leap that people make, and it is this black and white binary, ironically, binary leap from this word has history to you're a fucking Nazi and need to die. And I have actually seen a conversation go in that direction more times than I can count from fairly reasonable people. And this is why, this is why I'm getting more I guess, complex views around the issue of hate speech, especially when you look at the law and the way that it's being unevenly and unfairly used as a weapon to target innocent people and innocent dissenters. And so this warrants conversation, because this document landed on my doorstep this morning. Doorstep? Yeah. Whatever. It landed on my Twitter feed, and it is quite telling. This is what we're dealing with at a broader level. This idea that it's, first of all, okay to police the words of other people, despite their intent. But also a distortion of the meaning of words. But the weird inconsistency, which is this notion that language is allowed to evolve, such as the definition of a woman or a man, when it suits you, but it's not allowed, meanings aren't allowed to evolve when it's something that it's some niche history fucking thing that you read in a paper in undergrad. It's fucking stupid. So anyway, I'm trying not to be too serious about this, because it is actually funny, and I'm hoping that there's something to be said for laughing at this, because while it is funny, and it's very serious, because it is actually impacting policy and politics and lobby groups, and very powerful ones. And it's impacting law, especially around gender at the moment. And also, you know, in workplaces, fucking being asked your pronouns and all of that sort of stuff. It's policing people's words, and it's compelled speech. And I'm hoping that this is just us figuring it out. But fuck, this is what we're dealing with. And I need people to be aware that when someone says something's problematic, I agree, but it's all about the intent behind it. If the intent of saying that something is problematic, or you know, there's the word faggot, right? I hate that word, mostly because of the history, but it's about context. It's about the context of the word, right? And it's got a terrible history to it, but I get it. And if you sit around trying to police how everyone speaks about you, do you know all the kind of things that I've been called over the years? You know, like, fuck. Anyway, grow up, okay? Please don't fall into this language stuff. Yes, it's one theory. It's one framework in which to see the world, but it's not the most mentally healthy framework. Because if you are perceived constantly, if your whole worldview is about threat and danger, and that everything is violence, and that you are a victim, this is not healthy for you. It's really not healthy, because the world isn't like that. Most people don't actually give a shit. People don't even remember people's faces, let alone, and people don't even pronounce my name correctly. How are they, like, people don't care. You're not that important. And I get that we're just trying to get along, and we're just trying to get through. And if we can just get through that, then... Anyway, I've gone off on a fucking tangent because I feel so strongly about this. But let's keep it light. Let's get to this document, because it's a fucking cracker, okay? Now, this is from Colorado State University, and this is it's a resource compiled by the Inclusive Communications Task Force. What the fuck does that mean? Anyway, okay, no, that's not true. Okay, I'm being dismissive. I've worked at universities. I know what this is. It's just a statement of, it's a guide, right? I'm going to try and keep it above the waist, because ultimately I do believe that people need to not be a dick, right? But again, and this is my problem with the things like hate speech, which is when you say, don't be a dick, what does that mean when you break it down? And yeah, it's actually more about what it means, and it's in 101 philosophy, it's called begging the question. It's one of those things where when you say something is hate speech, what does that mean? What do you mean when you say hate speech? Okay, well, in the UK, that means you perceive it that way when the recipient receives it that way. If you've got people like this determining what hate speech is, this is deeply, deeply worrying. This is a problem, because this is what Orwell talked about in 1984. I recommend you reread it, about newspeak. Okay, this idea that you cannot use certain words and certain phrases, and it's batshit. It's crazy. So anyway, let's get to the funny part. Okay, I swear there's some funny stuff here. Okay, so I just wanted to say it's provided and it will be updated, okay? But it's worth noting, this is the thing that made me laugh, right? It's worth noting that language is always evolving. You know, so the document of words that you can't say will be updated periodically. Now, unless you're in the middle of this sort of gender discussion, it's very hard. It's funny, because one of the central arguments that they use around that trans women are women, which I don't want to get into it, is that language evolves, meaning evolves. Gender, the very concept of gender, evolves, and language evolves. So why does that not apply to this? Why does that not apply to these words? And once you get down, I'm going to scroll. I'll keep you. I'm going to get. We'll get there. The kinds of words that are considered offensive. Why can't they evolve? Why can't it's inconsistent, it's incoherent, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And the one thing that we need to make sure is that people who have any influence on policy are consistent. This is a university where this is a university who are supposed to teach you to be, if anything, if they've got one job, it is to be consistent and rational and reasoned with your arguments. This is fucking bonkers, okay? Now, so I just want to, it's not a cult, right? We're not a cult. It's not MLM. It's not anything like that. You're free to leave anytime you want, but would you mind telling us why? Just warning, it's not an official policy or required practice. It's intended as a resource to help our campus community reflect our principles of community. So if you really want to be truly woke and inclusive and respectful, it's not compulsory, but we think you should really just consider your actions. I think you should sit on the naughty step until you comply. Because, you know, we wouldn't want to make World War I veterans feel unwelcome at a state university. We'll get to that. Again, general best practices. Fabulous, okay? People first language. Now, look, this is something where, yes, disability advocacy groups suggest this. But again, you've got to understand the history behind it, which is the fact that people tend to minimize the person and focus on the disability. I have ADHD and I'm autistic, and I've had conversations where somebody has insisted, they've asked me what I prefer, and I go, I don't care, it's stupid. And and been badgered because I'm not using politically correct language about myself. And it's like, well, would you rather, what the fuck is wrong with you? So this is where I get it, right? Labels suck. Really, labels suck. I'm somebody who has suffered from that all of my life. And I've also been teased because of my name. I've been teased because I was fat. I've been teased because I was not the right kind of woman who is polite and wears lipstick and panders to men. I tell men to fuck off. That's it's something to be mindful of. And what this is called is empathy. It's just show empathy for other people and see people on a case-by-case basis. This spiraling towards fucking labels and badges and pieces of flair, office space style, in order to express yourself. It's fucking ridiculous. So, because is there anything less humanizing than asking people what categories they fit in order to communicate with them? How about we just sit down and have a drink and have a coffee and we tell a story and we connect and we talk about our lives and our friends and our things we love. And if we actually just shot the shit for a while and just talked, I think we'd actually find, rather than having these debates, right? And I say a debate because this is not something that you can. But if we actually, do you know what? I've got friends that are across the political spectrum, across race, across gender. I've got trans friends. I've got bi friends. I've got lesbian friends. I've even got men friends. I have rich friends and I have poor friends. I have doctor friends and I have, unemployed friends who are struggling. And guess what? We all talk. we all find common ground. And you know what? We don't talk about this shit. We just play games and we fuck around and we laugh and we connect with each other and we actually come to a better understanding. So anyway, this is my little speech. So I'm not opposed to inclusive language, but this is the weaponization of ideals, and this is weaponization of stuff that I hope these people are young. They're either young or incredibly fucking stupid and stunted at a university informing this is non-binding policy. So anyway, so you should never assume a person's gender identity. Oh, fucking whatever. Move on. Okay. Use gender inclusive language. That's fine. You know what? I've been called a cunt. I've been treated. You know what? I actually don't care what you call me, as long as you respect me and respect that I know. I've been treated like an idiot because I'm a woman in tech my entire life. Oh, not my entire life, but you know, I've been treated. I'm smart. I've been treated like an idiot my whole life and limited by my gender. My sex. My whole life. Harden up. Okay, so I've got a whole rant about how just trying to pronounce my name is an exercise, like me trying to do a phone call. It's like if I actually focused on every little microaggression that I went through in my day, I would most certainly be a basket case. So here's some words and phrases to avoid. Now, the thing that's delicious about this, right, is actually the history and the alternatives that are presented. Anybody who works in communications understands that words are great. The clever use of rhythm and creativity and creative use of words is everything that makes life great. Puns, metaphor, like irony, like that's what makes life worth living. Fuck. Okay. So we're not allowed to say addicted or like crack. Apparently. This is news to me. Because apparently I thought crack was, first of all, highly addictive. And second of all, an addiction is actually the clinically correct word. So it's often used to describe something that the person uses often. I'm addicted to Netflix. Well, one could actually argue, and there's actually, here you go, smartass, there's actually papers on this. People actually do resemble the dopamine. And those, sorry about my stutter. There's papers out there that show that gaming, Netflix, social media, they do release endorphins and dopamine that resemble the same state of addiction. So it's actually clinically correct, okay? So while addicted can be appropriate in some situations, it can also cause harm to those who are truly experiencing drug addiction. Do you know what actually causes harm to people with drug addiction? Fucking drugs. The families of addicts. This is somebody who's clearly never experienced living with or being an addict in their life. The thing that annoys me the most, and this is because I'm the child of an addict, and I have lived this life, the fact that these people are speaking on my behalf, treating me like I'm some sort of fragile bird, that is the opposite of the intention behind this type of stuff. The intention was to have empathy, and all this shows is a complete lack of empathy and a complete dehumanization of those who actually suffer. You know, people use humor as a pressure valve for their pain. Comedy is about truth and pain. Like, that's the reality. That's like, fuck me. Anyway, I'm sorry for ranting about this. It's actually just so funny, but also, again, all the funniest things all of the funniest things are the worst things, right? So I often go between just laughter and just sheer fucking anger at this. Anyway, so instead of saying, I think Netflix is like crack, which I think it is, I am a devoted fan of Netflix. I'm just going to pause for a moment and let that sink in. It's delicious and excellent. Okay. American/America. So that doesn't matter anymore either. You now need to use US citizen or person from the US. Because the Americas encompass a lot more than the United States. There is South America, Central America, Mexico, Canada. How obtuse are these people? Okay. I'm just going to skip that. It's ridiculous because I want to get to basket case. Because when I was referring to the fact that you don't want to offend a World War I soldier, this is what I'm talking about. Basket case. The alternative is I'm nervous. The term originally referred to a person, usually a soldier from World War I who lost all 4 limbs. The basket in this sense refers to the basket that the person would need to be carried around in. It has negative historic meaning. Now, I'm not laughing at the war. I'm just laughing at these fucking dickheads. Let's not forget that language is always evolving. I'm sorry if anyone is upset. But it's just fucking ridiculous. Now, look, some of these are good. Some of these are fine. Like, it's good. It's been interesting and educational to see what the history of some of these words are. Like, obviously, birth defect. Again, I have a birth defect. I had a heart condition. Again, it was something that was clinically correct. I think that it's not something, again, that's individual preference. If someone is particularly offended by the word birth defect, then I just saw the other 95. I just saw your comment, not men friends. I know, right? It's crazy. It's almost like we're humans or something. Anyway, but birth defects, right? Again, it's a scale. It's something. I have a congenital heart birth defect. That was clinically correct words. It's honestly, if you're offended by that word, I think it's on someone else's behalf. I don't know who's hurt by this, who actually suffers from these things. Because people who do actually suffer generally have to grow some skin pretty quickly. And they usually, most people, you learn to just have a sense of humor about this stuff. It's crazy. Yes, I know, Andrea. Hi. I love you. You're great. So, like the blind, the deaf, eye for an eye. Yeah. So eye for an eye is now illegal. Again, I understand this is about raising awareness. It's not compulsory. It's not law. But it gives you an insight into the mindset of those who actually want to influence how other people influence policy. This is fucking mental. Okay? This is the next generation and they're making law, and they're in political parties, and they're very vocal. Okay, this is deeply worrying. Apparently cakewalk is racist. I know, right? Who says eye for an eye? It's a colloquial. It's colloquial at this point. It's fuck me. Cakewalk is racist. Okay, I did not know. See, these are things where I just didn't even know. Like, I'm right, and I'm well read, and I did not know that cakewalk was racist. Right, but that was easy. Do you want to have a conversation with this person? No. Oh my God. Fuck. Have a gin and get a dick up here. Seriously. Okay. Okay. All right. Coloured, reasonable. Okay. I don't see. I'm starting to think that some of the people, these guys spend way too much time hanging around World War I veterans. Because I haven't heard anybody use the word colours since fucking 1970, since I was a kid. I mean, fucking hell. Again, that's reasonable, but it's just more about the psychology of the people who thought to include this in a list, right? Again, reasonable. But again, I get spasticity in my neck, and I've joked. I have neck spasticity and pain. And I've often joked that I can legitimately say that I'm a spastic now, and it's a joke. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, I prefer to just say, you know what? I don't say person with cerebral palsy. Do you know what I say? Dave. Julia. Rose. Fuck. These words are worse than trench warfare. Oh my God, yes. I know, Andrea. Fuck me. Okay, it's actually worth mentioning. This is actually psychological warfare, which is the worst kind of warfare, because if you punch somebody, they've got a black eye. But this is actually spread around and contagious. This is a fucking endemic. This is just revolting what's going on. And this is why for my friends that are worried that I've gone alt-right, this is actually the reason that I have to fight for freedom of speech is absolutely not for the things that I think free speech was intended, the laws were intended for. Hate speech is a good law. Hate crimes, good law. Those things, they're being ruined by these people. And this is dangerous. This is extremely dangerous. Okay? When I talk about hate speech and free speech, I am talking about the war that is going on with people like this, who want to see this as law. This is fun. There's a lot. I think there's somebody here who's a little bit crazy / nuts / maniac / lunatic / insane / deranged / psycho / demented / depressed / OCD. The person in charge of writing this one has a lot to say. So originally referring to mental illness, the terms crazy and nuts actually referred to people who were often institutionalized against their will. Yes, and that's a terrible thing. And it still happens. And do you know who it happens to? People who disagree with this shit. Anyway. Okay. Surprising and that guy is surprising and wild with his bare feet and bees in his beard. How surprising and wild. Are you fucking surprising and wild? You're acting a little bit overly organised in particular right now. Fuck off with your nannying shit. Look, I get this. This is one that I actually do get, okay, because I'm very well versed in it. Before I was diagnosed with autism, I was mistakenly diagnosed with bipolar disorder. But, I do this. I need to stop doing that. And I'm ADHD. Do you know how many people say fucking Dory and squirrel and, squirrel? It's like ADHD is actually extremely debilitating for me. It causes me to, and I'm on the spectrum as well, it causes me to stutter. You might hear that from time to time when I go, ADHD is not about being distracted. ADHD is it's actually, in the spectrum of illnesses, it's actually that I've had a lot of health problems. ADHD is the one that I find impacts my life the most. It really does. I find it quite debilitating. I'm on dexamphetamine for it, but it doesn't do the job, and I find ADHD to be extremely debilitating in all of my spectrum of illnesses, right? And I can fucking laugh at the squirrel joke, okay? Because I know that people don't understand what ADHD is. I've been told that it's not real for fucking years, and it is. It's the most... People need to start building some resilience. And there's a teacher called Claire Fox, and she wrote a book. I can't remember if it's called Generation Snowflake or not, but she is actually the person who linked this to the anti-bullying. Again, this is a good idea that fucking just gets co-opted. But she actually turned this, she says that we're teaching anti-bullying programs in schools where words are bullying, being left out is bullying. And I think, and parents who just don't tell their kids to just toughen up. This is the result. It's the result of people who just, and I hate to be that person that's like, oh, what we need is another war. But no, what we need is some resilience and some like this coddling. It's crazy. It's just crazy. Anyway, dumb and mute. Again, language evolves, right? I don't know anybody who's actually used the word dumb to mean person who doesn't speak. I haven't heard it for a while. Who are these people hanging out with? Are they hanging out at old folks' homes? Like, what the fuck? Okay. That's reasonable. But again, context. I know a number of little people and people who are quite fine with the word midget. Brad Williams owns it. Again, it's context. Fuck me. The King James. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by a toe. It's always, I know that it was, yeah, that's reasonable. But the song itself, fuck off. So, whatever. It evolves. This is related a little bit to this erasure of history as well, where on some level, I'm pissed off that they're changing Enid Blyton and changing Mark Twain. Do you know what? These things exist in history, and what they do is they show us, do people want to not, is this, okay, I'm forming my thought, give me a second. I can't help but think that this crew want everybody. It feels like they're trying to breed this new culture of fear, where everyone is a threat, everything is a threat, everyone is in danger, and it's always been this way. And that links back to this idea where they want to erase history, they want to erase the mistakes of history, they want to erase books, they want to change books, they want, Enid Blyton books, they were an amazing part of my childhood. And again, this isn't about nostalgia, this is about the fact that they sit there and they exist and they show that in my lifetime alone, just how much has fucking gotten better. And to turn around and erase that, it almost feels like it's deliberate, because if they turn around and if they can delete the things that show our progress, it justifies them complaining about this stupid shit now. And it doesn't make any sense. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd think that this was a deliberate war against those who are trying to make progress happen, especially feminists and people like that, real feminists who actually are trying to, we've made great leaps and bounds. We've got legalized gay marriage in a vast majority of Western countries. And look, the fight's not over, but it's reduced. It's substantially less. Anyway. So and the erasure of these things, like it's terrible. But you don't erase it. You acknowledge it. It was a mistake. We fucked up. Feminists fucked up with trans people in the US. That's something that we. Again, it's something fuck and hell. Anyway, can we just acknowledge our mistakes, empathize, and move on and have a beer? Okay. Epileptic, clinical term. It generalizes the population and minimizes personhood. If there's any epileptics watching, feel free to chime in on whether this has been a thing for you, whether you have hurt feelings because someone said you're epileptic. Eskimo. Whatever. Yeah, okay. Freshman. Using man terms excludes women. And non-binary gender identities. You mean people who opt out of being oppressed and or oppressor and are fucking not picking, no, fuck off. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Ghetto. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, yeah, that's good education. Gyp. Guess what? Gypsy lady. My great-grandmother's a gypsy. Romany gypsy. And guess what? Fine. My granddad was a gambler and a crook. Whatever. Ugh. Here we go. Another one with a lot to say. Okay. Crippled. Again, I know, lots of people I know who are handicapped, crippled, disabled, afflicted with, victim of, deformed. Fine with it. If you're not fine with it, then that's fine. But I think that the obligation on you is to say, well, I'd prefer you didn't talk to me that way. It's a two-way street. And I'm not saying that it's putting the onus on the victim necessarily. I'm saying that these are so much part of the vernacular that, do you know how much I've had to advocate for myself? Do you know how much I see neurotypical fucking horse shit 24/7? Fucking hell, get a job. Okay. He or she, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even going to give this the fucking... This is an entire series Sex is binary. Okay? There are people who with intersex conditions. There are people with gender dysphoria who then need treatment. Sex is, what was, hang on, someone said this great phrase, which is, sex is how we oppressed. No, sorry, sex is why we oppressed, gender is why. Gender is how. Let me start again. Sex is why we are oppressed, and gender is how. Okay? This can't, it's unscientific. There's people who struggle with gender. I've always struggled with my gender. I've suffered because I am female and different and feel masculine, whatever the fuck that means. And this is a race to the bottom. This is if you're not paying attention to this issue by now, you really, really should, because this is, if you're a woman, you really need to care about this issue. Okay. Good idea. The erasure of gender roles in particular are a good idea. That's what feminists have advocated for decades. But the answer is not more genders. The answer is no genders and an appropriate adjustment based on sex. And appropriate treatment and support for those that struggle in those areas. Okay? Fuck. Okay. Hip hip hooray! Here we go. I know this is long, but it just keeps on giving. It's fucking, okay. What's this one? Hip hip. Oh my God, okay. Godwin's law, invoked in policy. But Hitler said it. Okay. Can I tell you that, you know how I said I've got lots of friends before? These people are not my friends. They are dullards. They are dull. Who thinks like this? Smoke a joint, for fuck's sake. Okay, now, well, we don't want anyone who lived through 1819 to be offended in the college bar, do we? This just keeps on going. Hispanic, again, I understand that, fair enough. But again, it's vernacular. It's not, and again, it's okay to challenge it, but to make it, it's one thing to make it about awareness. It's another thing to fucking make this written down in policy. Hold down the fort. Oh, yes. Intended purpose. That's exactly what that phrase means. It evokes a great visual picture. Defend the fort. Yeah. That's called language. Fuck. Okay. Homosexual. What's this? Because of the clinical history of the word homosexual, it is used in an offensive way. What? No, absolutely not. See this? Look. Look at this. No. Just no. You want to know what's happening with the LGBTQIA+ pedo map movement? This is what's happening. They're erasing gays, lesbians, and bisexuals and attaching themselves to this. No. Just not okay. Queer is, first of all, it's interesting because the word queer is actually a slur. What I find funny is that you can't use the word fucking gyp or basket case, but the word queer is perfectly acceptable. No. I know many lesbians who hate the word queer, many lesbians who absolutely hate the word even being called gay, right? Homosexuality is the definition, the core definition for this movement. This is deeply, I didn't even see this when I first read it, this is deeply fucking worrying that this thinking is, it's not a clinical history, it's what it is. Sex is biological. If you want to see what the queers and the fucking pansexuals and the trans movement are doing to lesbians, it's right there in black and white. Yeah, that's fair enough. Indian, fair enough. Yeah, whatever. Slow learner. Oh, God. Some slow learners here. Fuck me. Okay. Long time no see. Originally mocking the Native Americans. You guys, using man terms excludes women. That's just how it is. But man is also used in terms of human, mankind. Yes, I understand. The thing is that there's some. The thing that's so disturbing about this is that there is actually a nugget of good intent and truth to this, which is the fact that this idea of the male as the default human is something that needs to be fought. But you're the ones erasing women. And, okay. And gender non-conforming is not in this group. Gender non-conforming, I'm all in favour of, okay? It's all good. Gender is not a thing, okay? If you think it's a thing, it boils down generally to stereotypes. Okay. Mr., Mrs., Ms., yes, I agree, don't use anything, right? I don't like being asked which man owns me. But again, pick your battles. Who gives a shit, okay? The world is what it is. You can't... No can do. Apparently it was originally a way to mock Chinese people. Alrighty then. Normal person. You could do with some on your committee. You really could do with some normal people on your fucking committee, seriously. I can't, you know what, I've studied this shit that these people are spitting out as fact. And you know what, like, this is sociology. This is about, this idea of norm and deviance. And this is just the fact that most people, that they've just completely destroyed the meanings of all of these words. Like fuck me. I'm not normal. And that's a good thing. Most people think not normal is a bad thing. Like, who gives a shit? Oriental. Yeah, fair enough. But again, paraplegic, here we go. They can generalise the population and minimise personhood. Well, no. Again, they're clinically correct terms. This is a university. I hope they don't have a medicine program there. Or nursing. Paddy wagon. Oh, paddy wagon. Okay. Yeah, because it's Irish, right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, fuck that shit. I'm Irish. Irish, Romany, Gypsy, and I haven't been offended by any of this yet. Oh, you're going home in the back of a police car. Huh. Slow claps. You're ruining society. Well done. Well done. Get your ukulele out. Fuck off. Peanut gallery. Is it because some people have peanut allergies? Or is it? Okay, I can see how that's kind of offensive. I haven't heard anyone use the word powwow. That's appropriation. Okay. Again, didn't know that, but it's food for thought at best. It's interesting. Okay. Yeah, the Irish are known for their thin skins, Andrea just said. Yeah. We can't laugh at ourselves at all. It's not really what we're known for. Fucking hell. The one thing that my grandma could never laugh about was the potato famine, because that was absolutely ridiculous. That's the shit you should get angry about. But no, that's, yeah. Fuck. Paddy is an endearing term for an Irishman, okay? These people. Preferred pronouns, I'm just skipping it. It's just a waste of fucking time and energy. I'm sick of it. Rule of thumb, okay? The rule of thumb has been said to it has been said to. So there's actually no evidence either. It's been said, it's a rumour that there's a belief. I heard that person's a TERF, right? And they're friends with them. English law allowed a man to beat his wife with a stick so long as it was no thicker than his thumb. Yeah. And language evolves. But it's the alternatives that are funny. Sold down the senile, demented. Nah, that's funny. Come on, fuck it. Dementia, again. Demented it's changed. Words change. It doesn't mean that. You're full of shit. Sold down the river. Yeah, who uses that word? Okay, if you use it, think about it. Some of this is very American, obviously. Some of these terms I might not. I'm what? Starving. I'm starving. I'm broke. When used in place of simply saying I'm hungry or I'm low on cash right now, these terms appropriate real situations. Real situations of hardship and can cause harm to individuals who are experiencing extreme poverty or hunger crisis. It's telling, isn't it? Yeah, it is offensive when middle-class white people say things and without any attachment to the actual suffering. It's very offensive, isn't it? Straight. Oh, fuck off. Okay. Yeah. Who uses the... I don't... Whatever. Grandfather clause. Oh, here we go. What? Grandfather clause. Black men could only vote if their parents or grandparents were able to vote before the year 1867. Which is... Yep, okay. Fair enough. Food coma. More commonly known as a food coma, this phrase directly alludes to the stereotype of laziness associated with African Americans. What? What? Okay, thug life, whatever. No, it doesn't. I think you guys are thugs. You're word thugs and thought thugs. It's fuck this. Okay, transgendered, not interested. There are transsexuals, and there are people who suffer from gender dysphoria. This is no. Okay. Yeah, do you know what? There's stuff in front of it. Like this is, you can't have it both ways. I'm going to rant about this. You cannot have this both ways. You cannot make trans your entire identity and then complain when people use your identity as a word. It's incoherent. With this Jonathan Yaniv case that's going on at the moment with Wax My Ball. I can't believe that. But it's fucking disgusting because this person has dragged a number of women in front of a court, the Human Rights Tribunal, over not waxing his balls, right? Sorry, her balls. Sorry about that misgendering. It was just, it's not on purpose. This is actually the absurd part of this. Anyway, but this is where the dissonance is. Apparently, I read that it is transphobic. Now, step through with me, okay? Let's walk through this. So, in a case where a trans woman is taking 16 brown women to the Human Rights Tribunal because they refused him a ball waxing on the basis that he is being discriminated against, she is being discriminated against because she's trans. It is transphobic to say that she's trans because she doesn't represent the trans community. This is a known predator, and they're not an outlier. I'm not saying all are. Nobody has ever said that, but enough are for these laws to be problems. Okay, it's perfectly fine to say someone's transgendered because that's all that fucking anyone's talking about. Okay. This is my favourite word is Zugzwang. It's a German word for no winning moves. Right? And that's what this is. It's just Zugzwang. You're waiting to be tripped up. There's no way you can step forward without landing on a fucking landmine of someone else's design. It's just fucking... You can't call a transgender person transgender, even though that's all they talk about, because it's transphobic. And even when they use that banner to harass and abuse young women, vulnerable women and girls, it's transphobic to point that out. What the fuck has happened? Okay. Anyway. Tribe, spirit animal. Yeah, I know what that means. Uppity. Okay. We're going to move through. Uppity. Southerners used uppity to describe African Americans who didn't know their socioeconomic place. No, I didn't. I'm Australian. My family used it against me because I got an education. It's vernacular. It's not... Look, I'm not dismissing the struggle of African Americans, but I'm pretty sure that the word uppity is very much down the bottom of the rung of their struggles right now. I'm pretty sure that access to employment, healthcare, dealing with some of the endemic and intergenerational issues with poverty, that... Fuck me. Wheelchair bound, confined or restricted to a wheelchair. It generalises them and minimises their personhood. No, it doesn't. So we're not just policing the words, we're policing the order of the words that they're used in. Jesus fucking Christ. I thought that I'm going to hell for this off the cuff thing where I say words accidentally in the wrong order. How about people with stutters or ADHD? I often malaprop because my brain works faster than my mouth. It's very ableist of you, isn't it? This is where it leads, which is that they're policing on behalf of people who weren't asked. They're sitting in a fucking room in the dark corners of a university library reading 1 or 2 books on fucking like semiotics or whatever the fuck they're doing. And nobody's consulting with this. They're just people who are speaking on behalf of other people. It's just so fucking white and rich, and just... I'd like to point out that the people who study at this university, I think they pay around $70,000 a year to be there. So if you're a parent in the United States and you're paying for a college education, this is what you're going to get. It's crazy. It's crazy. Absolutely fucking crazy. Anyway, this was supposed to be funny. But anyway. I hope I didn't fuck up too much here, but it was worth... I think it was worth it. I look forward to some hate, I suppose. I don't think anyone's watching anyway, so it's all good. But if you are and you're going to police me, fuck off. I don't care. Grow up. Get a hobby that isn't misappropriating academic terms and attacking fucking people with more knowledge and background than you. No. It's ridiculous. This should be contained to the universities. It's not. It's now bleeding into other institutions, and this is a problem. Ugh, fucking hell. Okay, let's go. Have a great day. Bye.